I've been running our school, Wonder, which is an Acton Academy, for over 7 years now. And I think the primary transformation I've seen in my children is just the development of agency and the ability to really love to learn. And I don't think that maybe loving learning was a change. It's more so that they were able to continue their love of learning that they had when we first started the school, which was like by far and away one of our primary goals that we had for our kids when we were starting the school. A lot of parents have the question of something like, is my child the right fit for this school? And I often, when I hear that question, I rephrase it as this: is our family the right family for this school? And what it usually comes down to is parents. And are parents ready to go on a journey? Because that's really truly what being with Acton is. I remember one of our founding families, maybe a year or so in, came to me after an exhibition once, and she said, you know, Zach, I knew that Acton would be a journey for my child, but I had no idea how much of a journey it'd be for me as a parent. And I think that's a key thing to understand as a parent, is that your child is not just going to a school and something like that. Like, you're becoming a part of a community. And if you don't jump in with this idea of becoming a part of a community, you really will miss out on a lot of the essence of what makes Acton so special. I think when you think about the parent's hero's journey at Acton, you really have to first start by understanding that a lot of parents, even parents that are really well-meaning by this and really interested in this, think of this more as a journey for their learner. I often tell parents that, you know, just about any learner can be a great fit for our school, especially the younger you start at Acton. But often parents can find struggles along the way. And so in psychology, there's this process called differentiation. It's this idea that part of the goal that we have, that we all should have as parents, is that our children develop into a different person than us, that they have this process they go through where they discover who they are, where their gifts and abilities meet the world, like what's their unique calling. And so often as parents in traditional school, there can be this sort of misunderstanding of that, to where it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna take on the same role every day until my child's 18, and then once they enter college, it's sort of like hands are wiped clean and now they're on their own. At Acton, it really is a process early where young learners are developing the skills and abilities they need and the agency they need to be able to go into the world and do extraordinary things. And we see this all the time with young learners doing things that at any other school or any other environment, maybe people would say, well, they can't do that yet, they're too young. And often we find parents even being stretched out of that comfort zone a little bit. But when they see some of the older learners and watch the exhibitions of older learners and see what they're able to do, it really comes full circle to say, yes, this is what we wanted, and this is what we wanted for our children, even if it means it's a bit difficult sometimes. The journey can be difficult for parents, but also it can be one that really is a moment of growth for parents as well. I remember early on in the school, we had an exhibition, and one of the girls was getting on stage to read this writer's workshop that she had done. It was voted as most excellent by her studio. She got on stage, prepared 100 parents in the audience, stood up there in front of the microphone, looked out over the audience, and completely froze. And maybe a minute went by, an excruciating minute, and I saw her parents in the audience sitting there, and I actually saw her mom. Her tears were welling up in her eyes, but they stayed exactly where they were. And as their daughter walked off the stage without saying a word, 3 or 4 of her friends ran out behind her. And then when I walked into that hallway, they were there comforting her, encouraging her, giving her just a lot of words that would help her to understand that she is capable of this, and letting her know that she's not alone. That same girl walked back on the stage, being empowered by her friends in her community, and froze again on stage, froze another time. The next time after her friends met with her, right after that, they walked out, arms linked together, on stage all together, while she courageously read this writer's workshop in front of all of the audience. Not once did her parents stand up to try to solve the problem or to try to, make it better. They were there encouraging her, but her friends stood with her on stage while she conquered this fear, and never again did she have that fear when she was with us at our school. When it comes to tracking progress in the studio, I often say that at a normal school, the constant is how much time a learner is going to spend on a certain subject. But the variable is how much they actually know. So we know that Algebra 1 is going to take a year, but they could get a 75% or they get a 95%. They're still moving to Algebra 2. At Acton, it's completely flipped. The constant is how much you know. We master each badge or each area before we move on, and the variable is how much time you take. So the way that works is moving from elementary to middle school to high school is there's a base level that you need to have accomplished for each studio before you move from one to the next. But the amount of time it takes you to accomplish that is really up to you. So it means that you could take extra time on something that's difficult. Maybe you're struggling in math right now, but you really love reading and you're deep into books. But you can take some extra time on math to be able to really understand it before you move on. And all the while, you've taken on a lot of these other challenging, but maybe like less difficult for you in the moment, tasks of writing badge book reviews and writing your writer's workshop and things like that. So when you're in each studio, you have a badge plan that you want to accomplish to move from one to the other, but you know you have the freedom to choose what you're working on and also to understand, I'm going to accomplish these difficult tasks and then I'm going to focus really heavily on the number one dragon that I'm facing right now. And so we see learners do this quite often, but the constant is that we master the work before we move on, which is a very foreign concept to anybody that's been in a traditional environment. When you think about the goals you have while you're a learner at Acton, we like to really break them down in terms of each studio. And the way I find that easiest to do is just to say, really when you're at the younger ages, when you're in Spark, ES, and maybe upper ES, if the school has that, there's two primary goals. Love learning and learn to get along with other people. Love coming to school every day, keep the curiosity in your eyes, don't let the fire for your love of learning go out, and learn to work well in a tight-knit tribe with other people. Then as you enter the middle school, you take your love of learning and your ability to work well with others and you layer on what we call the habits of hard work. Can you work truly hard in flow for 3 hours a day? Which I often say is hard for most adults to do, but our learners do it every day. It's very inspiring to watch. And then you take your habits of hard work, your love of learning, your ability to work well with others, and then in high school, you layer on a tested, embedded idea of what you'd like to do with your next great adventure. And so it really is like tearing up to this purpose and goal of being able to go out into the world with a mission at hand, ready to go conquer those things. I think the value of the Acton Network, I don't know that I could overstate this, but one of the things we're missing most in society today is community. Community is in a place that's almost irrecognizable compared to past generations. So being able to be with like-minded people that are dedicated to making things better in our society for the next generation is, I think, one of the most important tasks you can have as a human. And so the network serves that role for this group of people that are committed to making the world a better place, to making education better for all of our children. The Acton Network really looks like a lot of courageous individuals working to reseed civilization on their own, but coming together with shared experiences. So the Acton Network really is not something that is like controlled or ran by somebody. It really is all of us who have been inspired by Jeff and Laura Sandifer to go out and make our communities better in our individual way. I think the role of an Acton owner in the studio really is to make sure that our promises are being adhered to. Because what separates Acton from any other school is the promises we make to each other as parents, to each other between parents and learners, and between guides and learners. Those are the boundaries and the guardrails that we operate within. So I think when you think of any founder or any person that's starting an organization, you really have to think of them as setting the vision and direction and then making sure that the promises that we're making to each other are being adhered to. I think one of the powerful things about Acton Academy and the network of Acton Academy schools is there's not a top-down control. It really is a group of courageous entrepreneurs, each wanting to make the world a better place for themselves and their children and their community, working to design an educational journey that best fits for their community. We all adhere to the same promises. That's what makes us the network. But each school has its own flavor, and each school has like the fingerprints of its founder that are like really setting the direction that it's going to go. And it's not going to look like a neat franchise that you might see in a strip mall. It really is going to look like the passions of the unique individual founder that you are meeting when you're going to visit an Acton. And I think that's a very powerful thing. So you have a lot of choice within that, and the founders get to like set the journey. They get to like use what their inherent gifts are to go out and create quests and create, be game makers and create content that they think learners really should know. When you're first looking at Acton Academy, you might find a school with a beautiful campus, or you might find a school that's in a small shopping center, but none of that is what really makes it magical. What makes it magical is a community that's formed inside and the bonds that the young people have put together to go on this journey and do courageous things. So as you look at this, and as you consider looking at different Acton Academies or different schools, understand that really what makes this school special is the young people and the work that they're taking on and the pride that they take in that. And that it's on their own. It's not directed by an adult. It's not forced upon them. You're not going to show up to an Acton Academy and see a beautiful show choir concert where every learner is sitting perfectly still in their seat. You're going to see an exhibition that's messy, that has a lot of creation and a lot of discovery within it. And so each one of those is going to be different each school, but the magic is the same, and that's what makes Acton Academy so special.